Hi YouTube, here I have this Dell Inspiron 155593 laptop. It's quite similar to other Inspirons I've made videos on in the last couple of years, like the 5584 from just a few months ago. I made a video on that. It is quite similar, but pretty much has updated hardware, so I would go ahead and make a video on it. There's also a few different design features that are different as well. So to start off, it was $600 from Costco. It was a little bit special because it came with a touchscreen. Okay. But in general, there's 5 different models of the 5593, or 5 different configurations, I should say, ranging between $500 and $900. Right now, they're currently on sale in quotation marks. I say that because it's possible in my mind that they're always on sale, like Macy's, you know. But anyway, they're between $380 and $750 now instead. And that ranges from the lowest model having an i3, 4 gigs of RAM, and 128 gig SSD, to the most expensive having an i7, 16 gigs, and 512 gigabyte SSD. I believe this is the second model from the top out of 5 models, so it's almost the most expensive, but not quite. Or maybe it's the third from the top. But anyway, so I'll go into first impressions now, kind of like what you might notice initially getting the laptop. So it's very similar to the other Inspirons. Maybe it's a little bit lighter, doesn't feel quite as heavy, although none of them are particularly heavy in the first place, to be quite honest with you. And I noticed that the bottom is actually more of like a matte light gray color. It's not really as glossy and metallic looking. And the keyboard as well does look a little different in that it's more of like a darker gray gunmetal color. It's a little bit interesting, but for the most part it does look and feel pretty similar to the other Inspiron laptops as of late. And on the keyboard, it doesn't have a fingerprint scanner like some other Inspirons have had. At least this configuration doesn't. And the power button does seem to want you to hit it twice before it actually powers up. Just hitting it once oftentimes doesn't seem to do much of anything, so that's a weird little design quirk right there. It also tends not to have a power LED anywhere on it, so you kind of just have to judge if it's on or not by if it wakes up when you move the mouse. There's no power LED down here or anything like that. The LED doesn't turn on the keyboard, but it is backlit, but that backlight turns off very quickly when you go ahead and leave it idling for a second. So it is a little bit hard to tell if it's actually on or not. Now I can definitely say that the screen does look pretty decent. If you're somebody that does a lot of very color sensitive work and you're used to very nice monitors, you might not be impressed, but as somebody who's seen some pretty bad monitors before, this one is definitely nothing to complain about. The colors are decent, the contrast is decent, it looks okay. It's only 60 Hz of course, because you can't really expect more than that out of a consumer grade laptop. Even most gaming laptops don't have more than 60 Hz. But overall, I can't say without diving into tons of specs about contrast ratings, the monitor does look absolutely fine. But looking around the laptop, like I said, it does feel pretty light. The build quality feels roughly the same. It's not like a full metal laptop. It's plasticky. It does have a little bit of play to it, but that's okay considering the fact that it's a budget series laptop. Doesn't have a ton of ports on the side. You got your HDMI, your compact Ethernet port, a couple of super speed USB 3.1s, I believe they are, combo audio jack, SD card slot. I think that's USB 2.0, and if you want to go ahead and lock it into something, those are your options. And I was actually very concerned when I initially bought it because it only has one video port, and this is a laptop for my mom, and she wanted 2 monitors. So I thought, crap, I only have one video port. It's an HDMI port, so she can only use one monitor. But I actually tested out a VT1000 laptop dock. You can actually get display through a dock through the USB-A connector here, either of these guys, I believe. So it does actually support multiple displays as long as you have that dock, which I think costs about $100. So that was a huge saver for me because I didn't have to return it because it does actually support multiple monitors. And the charger to it is super small and light. The connector is very similar to the other Inspirons, but it's very small. It's only a 45 watt charger, as you can see. So it's tiny, very portable, very convenient. Much different from a gaming laptop. Those things will have absolute bricks for chargers. And a lot of that is because Dell's new CPUs, the 10th generation i-series processors, they're not way more powerful than the other series, but they do have smaller transistors that are more power efficient. So for hardware, it has the i7 1065G7 CPU. That's a 4-core, 8-thread, pretty standard Intel CPU. Like I said, it is the 10th generation, so it does have 10 nanometer transistors instead of 14. All that really means is that the actual components in the CPU are smaller and thus more power efficient. which is why it's only a 15-watt TDP CPU. I know Intel rates their TDPs a little lower than they should be, but the point is, it's a very power-efficient CPU, especially running at a base clock speed of only 1.3 gigahertz, which sounds kind of slow, but even just using the laptop, it does absolutely fine. The CPU is not always pegged at 100%. It does idle pretty low. And even though it is only a 1.3 gigahertz CPU, it does actually boost up to 3.9 gigahertz, which is very interesting to see a CPU that can boost 3 times faster in frequency than its base clock. So I think it's the best of both worlds of a CPU. You know, it's not more than 4 cores. Intel's been on 4 cores for a long time now, but you know, it's a power efficient CPU that is going to be more than powerful enough for you to go ahead and do your email and web browsing and all that good stuff on a home use laptop like this. And it did come with 8 gigabytes of RAM. Thankfully, that's a 1 8 gigabyte chip, because a lot of laptops lately have been coming with, you know, 2 4 gigabyte chips. And so if you want to upgrade like me, you have to pull one of those chips out and replace it with another one, so you lose some of that upgrade. But thankfully, like I said, it is 1 times 8 gigabyte, so with this one, I actually made a video on just plopping another 4 gigs in. It's stupid simple. You just take the screws off the bottom of the case, you go ahead and you pull the bottom off, and you just add the other chip in there, no problems, and very easy to upgrade. And like I said, it's got the 0.5 terabyte Toshiba NVMe SSD. I'll do a speed test on that later, but basically that's blazing fast. It's amazing to have that in a consumer grade laptop, and I'm very surprised I was able to find a 0.5 terabyte one in a laptop for only $600. The screen is a 15.6 inch. Like I said, it's a touch screen because the one Costco's selling, well, it was a touch screen. You can add that option on Dell's site. It will cost you, I think, an extra $50. So right now on Dell, I think the same configuration would probably cost more, like $800 or so, somewhere in that range. Especially because I bought it on Cyber Monday, so it was a little bit cheaper. And on the inside, it does have a unused 2.5 inch drive bay, so it's super easy if you want to add, you know, a laptop hard drive or a 2.5 inch SATA SSD. You can just go ahead and throw that in there for extra storage. It's all ready to go. And the NVMe SSD that it comes with is actually really tiny. It's very small. It's amazing that they're fitting that much capacity in such a small little drive. And of course, it does have enough space to be upgraded to like an XX8200 Pro SSD, like a much larger one physically. That would be a tad bit faster, and you can also get them in larger quantities as well. So overall, the specs are good and has an awful lot of upgradability. So just clicking around, not really doing much, I can show you that it is pretty fast. You don't really have to wait around for it to do much. Of course, most laptops are like that off the bat, but I do remember maybe 5 years ago buying brand new laptops with, you know, old-fashioned spinning hard disks that would be slow right out of the box, but that's definitely not going to be the case with this guy. Right now, I'll go ahead and do a boot test for you. So I'm going to go ahead and shut the laptop off. So I've got my stopwatch over here on my Dell G3 laptop. If you couldn't tell, I really like Dell laptops. I do recommend them. And I'm just going to go ahead and see how fast it boots. Like I said, you do kind of have to double tap the power button for some reason, but we'll see how fast it is. About 11 seconds, between 11 and 12 seconds to get to the login screen. I'm not going to show you my PIN, so once I log in, super fast to go ahead and log in once you type in your PIN. And to shut down, I'll just show you how fast that is. So it is kind of hard to tell, like I said, when it's still on. I'll let you know when the backlight turns off, which actually isn't on right now, so I can't let you know when the backlight turns off, unfortunately. But at any rate, there it is, it's off. So it is very quiet. Right now I can't even hear it because the fan's not even on. I haven't given it a stress test like under full load, but I can tell you that the CPU is really not going to generate very much noise. Even under fairly full load, you shouldn't have this laptop sitting on your desk absolutely screaming the fans. Should definitely stay very quiet most of the time because, again, the CPU puts out so little heat because it uses so little power. And so I just did a speed test of the NVMe SSD, and here are the results. I did only do sequential because those are the most commonly used numbers, but we're looking at about 2.25 gigabytes per second read speed and 1.28 gigabytes per second write, which is absolutely fantastic. To give you some perspective, 5 years ago, if you bought a laptop, it probably would have had a traditional hard drive in it. Instead of 2,253 megabytes per second, you probably would have got about 150 over here. Instead of 1281 read, you probably would have got, I don't know, 100, 150. So it's way more than 10 times faster on reads, for example, than a traditional hard drive would be. And it's fantastic that this NVMe technology is getting so cheap in laptops nowadays, which is a huge reason why laptops like this one are so much faster than they used to be. It's because of that NVMe. So I unfortunately don't have time right now to do a full battery test. I am working on some time constraints with making this video, but I just unplugged it and it says I have 6.5 hours of use remaining. Granted, I'm not doing much. I'm just sitting at Windows with no apps open. So you can probably expect to get up to maybe 6 hours of battery out of this if you're doing really, really light use, which sounds pretty good to me. I have heard online that the battery isn't as good as other laptops, but take that with a grain of salt. It's probably, you know, what you'd expect out of really any Inspiron laptop or any similar laptop like that. So overall, it's a fantastic laptop. I would definitely recommend it for anyone who's looking for a home use laptop. Gaming, not so much, but for just basic use, it's absolutely fantastic. I am definitely a fan of Dell's. I like Dell's quite a bit. I've bought Lenovo's before that were cheaper but would break, and I think Dell's a perfect middle ground between price and quality. It's not a flimsy laptop. It's not going to break on you, most likely. At least the probability is a lot lower than with Lenovo or something, or HP or something like that. The hardware is fantastic for the money. It really is. Getting that NVMe SSD and that i7 in a laptop at this price is definitely pretty good. Obviously, if you're looking for something like gaming, you'd probably want to look at something other than the Inspiron, but overall, I think it's a fantastic laptop for a fantastic price for home use. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post a comment. I'm usually pretty good about getting back to people with questions, and thank you for watching.